thank you and your committee for your work, and I just want to read some of the wording you used in the interim committee report that we voted on, that I liked a lot, and use it to frame what I think may be deficit in this document. The two words I want to stress are narrow and directly incompatible. And that's the standard I use. Are these time and space restrictions crafted narrowly enough? All right, and are they directly incompatible? All right. You further go on. In addition, the university may reasonably regulate the time, place, and manner of expression to ensure that it does not significantly disrupt the university's ordinary activities. Again, the word is significantly. Your words, I love them. I think they're perfect. Narrowly, significantly, directly. But when I read the document, there are lots of restrictions that I cannot make the case that they're narrow, significant, or direct. Megaphones, for example. You know, the use of megaphones in itself, to me, doesn't seem to be a narrow, direct, or significant affecting the university's business. A megaphone alone, by its very nature, seems far too broad to take out. But when the black kids pick up the megaphone, all of a sudden megaphones, right? And I know that's not your intent, but it's hard not to see things in this light. The only real threats to this university community came not from those protesters, but from the people outside, like the person who called in the yik-yak threats. Those kids found community, they found warmth, they found their voice. They did more about our university mission in education than we could ever do in the classroom.
There's I think something that could be sharpened up there in the campus policy. You know, a megaphone, for example. I mean, I think your examples of a megaphone in the quads, sure, that ought to be approved. But I will say a megaphone right outside, within 10 feet of windows of a classroom when the class is going on, is a different type of situation.
Does this affect, would this restriction on structures and tents affect tailgaters?
Yes, yeah, and that, I think one thing that needs more work here is this intersection with those uses. I mean, like no overnight sleeping, someone can pay for a permit to overnight sleep for a tailgate under the athletic rules.
Actually have worked with athletics to look at their current policies and to get them rewritten where necessary so that they are in line with this. There were some areas that there were some definite things allowed in athletic documents that are inconsistent both with this document and campus policies.
So basically you're trying to engineer where people can stay over for a football game, but can't stay overnight to protest racial injustice. Yes. That seems really difficult to me.
Well, okay, nice.
It just doesn't wear that thick for me. I think those judgments are not being made content neutral at that point. I think it becomes too convenient. I think that's not a content neutral judgment to allow this for the athletics, but not for the kids who want to protest for racial justice under health and safety. I don't see it. It doesn't pass the sniff test.
We've had major demonstrations on this campus back in 1986 and 1987 when we had the Shantytown protesters. And a journalism student, I am proud to say, was one who was arrested for trespass, and she was acquitted because of the public forum aspect of Francis Quadrangle. So sleeping, camping can be an expressive activity. So what we need to do, I believe, is to work with campus facilities to find this middle ground, if you want, this common ground where we can have two values. We can have expression where people do think that sleeping over, camping is going to be sending a distinct message that really cannot be communicated any other way, and also where we can have safety issues resolved.
When I asked about that, I didn't just mean sleeping, because this also says that constructing structures like canopies, which we see a lot of in tailgating. Nobody's sleeping there, but people put up PC tents all over the place. Are those going to be permitted or not?
But they're approved. I mean, they're going through the process to approve it, and so could somebody anywhere on campus. The ability to construct something is not restricted. It is simply asking that the process has been in place for every other tent that we put up on this campus is extended to these instances as well.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the officially put up tents. I'm talking about the ones where people are barbecuing and setting up those canopies all over the place.
And their athletics is attempting, where we're attempting to address
I
that in
understand.
that they have to reserve the spot. And
Okay.
if
My
they
concern
reserve-
is simply it's already been raised, but that it's
Okay.
all treated equally.
Yeah, that's, as I understand, Todd, what we're
Yeah.
meaning to say here is that there has to be approvals for those uses as well.
The concern was that campuses were trying to set up, for instance, a speaker's circle, and then there was a concern that, oh, that's the only place we're supposed to speak. That is our public forum. And I think the legislature is making quite clear that no. Many open spaces, traditional public forums. But when you mention the word public forum, please remember that the Supreme Court has said from time immemorial, you can have reasonable, meaning non-discriminatory, content neutral, time, place, and manner restrictions. So if you want to have your parade down Broadway, you may be required to have a parade permit. But again, there have to be very specific reasons for denial of a request to get that permit. And again, it always has to be content neutral.